This is the Batten House Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Batten. Well, hello, everyone. I am sitting here with Dan from Celebrite. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good. Good morning, Sean.
So Dan is one of our valued customers that we work with. Actually, he has an awesome product and a great story to tell. So Dan, for our viewers, tell us about a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so our business is called Celebrite. We've been operating in Ottawa since 2018, so we're in year 8 now. We're kind of known for this product called permanent holiday lighting, which takes the concept of Christmas lights, but kind of with a twist so that it goes up once, stays up year round. It's kind of invisible during the day. You can't really see it. And then at night, it adds all the power of app control and all these smart home features, so you can have it do moving patterns and things like that. So it just adds, it's in the smart home ecosystem, and it adds a ton of curb appeal to any house.
Absolutely, and I personally have seen them pop up around our neighborhood here in Ottawa, in the west end of Ottawa. So it's pretty beautiful. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, it's been a real journey, the last 8 years, and it's awesome to see it. When you drive around at night, just seeing it up there, it gives you the good feels for sure.
Well, so I know a little bit about your story, but for our viewers, tell us about your journey, how this got started. How you've been in business about 8 years now. And so tell us about your journey. How did you get going with this?
Well, I mean, it started small. It was pretty low on the aspiration level. It really just stemmed from a personal problem, right? Like, my wife asked me to put lights up on the second story of our house one year. And, typically we just put them over the garage, and that was it. And I wasn't
As do
super
we all.
interested. Yeah, I wasn't super interested in getting up and down on that ladder twice a year to go up to the second story. So I have a background in computer engineering and construction, so I was kind of well positioned to develop this product, I guess is a good way to put it. And from some of my past endeavors, I had relationships with some of these manufacturers that make LEDs and things like that. So I kind of cobbled together this thing using repurposed Jumbotron pixels, actually, the kind of the pixels you'd see on a big screen in a football stadium, things like that. And we repurposed that into kind of more of a residential centric product that mounts in an aluminum track. And version 1 wasn't super glamorous, but it got the job done for us at home. And I hadn't really thought of anything beyond that at the time. I'm just like, okay, great, now I don't have to deal with it. But then people started knocking on the door, and people were asking where I got it. And
Really?
having been in business before, I had never really experienced tailwinds like that. And it kind of was immediately obvious that we found this niche, that this product is people wanted. And at the time, it didn't exist. Like, this whole concept of permanent holiday lighting wasn't a thing back in 2017 when this was happening. So I guess my spidey senses were going off, and we realized we could make a go at it. So we started making a kind of prototype quality product for a few friends and family and things like that in Ottawa. And it really just, it took off. Like, it was exponential growth from day one. It felt like, and it was a wonderful feeling, having experienced the complete opposite experience in a few other businesses that have tried to get off the ground in years past, where it just feels like you're always walking uphill. This was just like, we just had perfect market fit kind of right out of the gate, and there was obviously, people saw the value, right? Like, the pain point was real, and people just kind of embraced it, and then it's been ever since. It's been 8 years just kind of hanging on as we've been on this ride. It's been really fun.
And you've actually, like, moved locations a couple times, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's our MO. We outgrow our space pretty much every year and a half. So we've moved a bunch of times now. And it seems every time we move into a building, we look at it and we're like, oh, this is going to be too big. We'll never fill this. And then, a year later, we're like, oh, like, we're not going to make it through the year.
Yeah.
So that's, one of the good problems to have in business is this kind of growth curve.
Absolutely. Well, it's neat because as a almost customer, because we actually had you guys come out and check out our house, and unfortunately we need to get our eavesdrop replaced first before we
Mm.
commit to lighting. But one thing that we thought about was how great it will be for security. Actually, for us, not just holiday lights, because I know that's where you started, which is awesome. But
Mhm.
we also have a senior living with us, and so to have the light around her entrance in that case, like it's actually really appealing to us. Yes, the holiday, which is where he started, which is super awesome because we're a big Christmas family,
Yeah.
um, but also the added security and the just the lighting of the path, like from with a nice bright house. So there's actually so much more that as a customer, and we've got our down payment in, we're ready to go soon. That we see the value as actual customers of yours as well. So it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah,
We
it
yeah,
is. And you nailed it. Like it really is. Once it's up, you start realizing there's all these other use cases for it, right? And
absolutely,
most people aren't going to get up and put up St. Patty's Day lights, but when it's as easy as just pressing a button, all of a sudden, boom,
totally.
you're all green for
And we
that
see it
holiday, right?
around our yeah, we see it around our neighborhood as well. It's super. It's just awesome. So with the industry being newer, because
Hmm.
we're obviously seeing competitors pop up now, and so on. Can you tell us about any myths or misconceptions you hear about your product or service, the industry, kind of that you've noticed over the last 8 years?
Um, I mean, misconceptions, not necessarily. I think maybe the biggest thing we've seen, and maybe the biggest challenge we faced in the early days, is just making people realize that it's a product at all, right? Most people didn't know it existed, so especially for the first few years, the challenge really was educating people, right? Making people realize that
Absolutely.
this was a product that they could have and use. Once it got in front of people and they saw it on a house, the light, the metaphorical light went on in their head, right? And they're like, "Oh yeah, like I get it. That's awesome." They're just being a new industry, it's all about educating, right? And it's all about getting the word
Absolutely.
out that it's a thing. And obviously that's changed over the years now, and it's definitely moved more mainstream, and people already know that it's out there. And so now that the conversation is like, okay, well, why would I go with you versus company X or
That's
whatever,
right.
right? So it's
It's evolved too.
it's
Yeah.
it's yeah, definitely evolved over time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's great.
yeah.
That's so cool. So you, you being the owner, and you clearly are extremely involved in the business. What do
Mhm.
you do for fun? Like when you're not working your business and developing, and I know I've got a little inside track on Celebrite, and I know there's stuff coming up the pipe and R&D, and I'm
Mhm.
super excited about it. What you're thinking about, but what do you do for fun as Dan, as the owner of a really cool
Yeah.
Ottawa company?
I mean, I guess I'm pretty hobby heavy. I do a lot of things. I come from a background in music. My degree is actually in music, so I still create music, and I'm teaching my kids how to play their instruments now. So I'm pretty involved on that side of things. I also very very heavily involved in the hockey community. I coach two
Nice.
minor hockey teams, and I still play myself as well. So those are the two things that take up the bulk of my time. When I'm not at work, and
Yeah,
the brain never shuts off. There's always stuff going on as far as product development and things like that. So it sounds kind of lame, but one of my favorite things to do when I go home from work is play around with electronics and work on the next thing. Right, like a lot of my role at work has shifted over the last few years. Right, like it started out with me tinkering in my garage, and now there's 50 people here, so it's um, my job's more of a manager now, right? So my fun is actually getting to dig into the electronics again and play with
yeah.
that stuff and come up with new things.
That's awesome. We should connect again at some point and talk about that life work balance that
Hmm.
you're as a business that's growing, and it's always like this R&D like crazy. The growth has been awesome, managing a team, but then also being able to balance your family and not being absent. And I love that. So we'll stay tuned
Yeah.
for another discussion, because that's when we find entrepreneurs like yourself who have a successful business and they're doing some great things in the neighborhood, which you guys are in the community. We'd love to get back to and have a side conversation at some point about the balance you strike. So I honor you for that. That's
Yeah.
you
I
know
mean, I'd love to talk about that too, because I do. My opinions, I think, are a little different than the norm, maybe on what is a good work-life balance. And I'm more of an integration thing. I think work and life need to coexist as opposed to have a
Absolutely.
separation. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, let's shelve it, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to sit
Yeah,
down again and really dig
absolutely.
into that one.
That's awesome. I appreciate it, and I'll look forward to that. So as you've, you're an entrepreneur and you have been for a while in many different avenues, right? And then now you've hit
Mhm.
this, and many things have shaped you, like many things have shaped us all, especially as entrepreneurs. Can you describe one like hardship or life challenge that you rose above, and now you can say, you know what, like that really helped shape my my approach, my thoughts, something like that.
Yeah.
Just something that yeah.
Um, I've been really lucky. I've had a good life. I have a lot of support. My family's super supportive. I have great, super intelligent friends that a lot of them now work here. So I don't have, that one thing that was the total disaster that was super formative and that
Yep.
my whole life has revolved around it. I think I've been shaped a lot more by lots of small things. You hear a lot of entrepreneurs talk about failure, and I've had my share as well, right? Like this, I've had business before that have failed, and um, those are hard, and I think if you go through it with the mentality that it's a learning experience, and fail early, fail while you're young, and then grow from it, and move on, like you grow stronger for sure. I think probably, introspectively, the biggest thing that I learned is I'm this big type A personality. I like to drive things, and I tend, when I was younger, you tend to be kind of oblivious about how that affects those around you, and how that can, have negative impact on other people's feelings and things, because you're this big kind of bull in a china shop that drives things ahead, right? So, I think for me, probably the biggest thing I've learned over the years is empathy, and really, um, learning and developing the skills to understand how my actions affect those around me, and it's been pivotal, I think, in building a really strong team here with a great, environment. So I think I can't pinpoint one specific thing that took me there, but like all these learning experiences through the last 20 years of entrepreneurship, I think empathy and really learning to harness it and how powerful it is has probably been
Mhm.
my biggest takeaway from all those experiences put together.
That's great perspective. We're partnering with a bunch of young people right now in high schools and such, and so it'll be great for them to hear a success story like yourself, and notice it doesn't need to be some catastrophic thing that changes course, but these little things along the way, and you being aware and be able to capture those things and shift your perspective, and then that's really that's good. It's good. It's a great answer, Dan. That's I really appreciate that,
Awesome.
especially
Thanks.
for our young people. Yeah. Um, what's the one thing you wish our listeners knew about your business? So someone doesn't know anything about you and they're kind of looking into the realm of exterior lighting. What's one thing that you wish they could really know about your business up front?
I mean, I guess it ties in with the last question. More about like the culture and what we're about, and how we try and be good stewards of the community, and give back, and that, like, one thing I realized, this is relevant because we've just been looking at our website and things, is like we don't portray that well to the outside world. How focused on, um, things that we would consider being like good people in general. So, taking care of the environment, right? Making sure we give back to the community, championing causes. Like we just did a big thing for mental health where we partnered with, a few of the foundations in the area.
Oh,
So like
you guys
these
do
types of
so much.
things. Pardon me. Sorry, I missed that.
You guys do so much in the community, but it's hard to talk about that on your website, to talk about yourself that way. But you're certainly, as we've gotten to know you over the last 2 years, there's so much, like you're such a pivotal business and culture, like the culture that you have on your staff. Um, we've seen as customers, you guys do so much in the community, and so yeah, how do you
Yeah,
how do you
it's I
represent
mean, we're
that?
also Canadian, right? So it's hard to brag about stuff
That's
too,
right.
right? So, not that bragging is maybe the right word, but
Oh,
But I
that's
think when people are shopping, especially with everything that's going on in the US right now and this push to buy Canadian, right? Like another decision making thing that people can use when they're buying is like, do I want to work with a company that has good values and like treats their employees well, right? Like we're part of this thing called a living wage program. So this is like a third party that examines the cost of living and makes they kind of dictate like, hey, this is what a living wage is, so we ensure we pay every employee at least that, right? So like there's these things that we want to be responsible humans, and I think if people knew that about us, they'd feel more comfortable doing business with us, right? Like we're ethically strong, we're above board, right? Like we know we got your back in any
yeah.
kind of situation, right? So um, if someone could take it one takeaway, that would probably be what I would like them to know about us.
That's great. I didn't know that. That's sounds like another discussion we need to have. So to wrap up, how can listeners learn more and contact or stop by your company? I know you have a showroom.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most
But
people don't
how can we
shop
find you?
at showrooms anymore. They do it on the internet. But yeah, we're available online at celebrite.ca. We do have a showroom in Canada. Feel free to come by anytime. It's on Edgewater Street near Terry Fox and Hazeldean.
And behind the
Um,
Tims.
that's it. Yep. Yeah. I mean, half of you are probably there anyways. So it's just another half a block down.
Absolutely.
Um,
Good.
but yeah, I
Well,
mean, those are probably the easiest way. Pick up the phone. I mean, that's one thing we're proud of too. When you call us, you don't get some robot. We answer the phone, right? So
yeah.
it's just those little things. We try and make every customer experience positive. That's start to finish through the whole process. And answering phones is one of the ways you can do that.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I know you're a busy entrepreneur, dad, coach, friend, all these things. Thanks so much for your time and spending some time with us. And we look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks for listening to the Batten House Podcast. To nominate a favorite local business to be featured on the show, go to battenhousepodcast.ca. That's battenhousepodcast.ca.